Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, The Pecos Aesthetic. The holidays are right around the corner, and it's the perfect time of year to make some holiday cash. Whether you run a small wood shop, a side hustle, an Etsy store, or are an avid DIYer looking to clean up the holiday markets this year, these products sell well and will earn you a hefty profit. They're easy to build, use low-cost materials, can be batched out in bulk, and are proven sellers. I'm going to walk you through how to make all three of these products today, and as an added bonus, I'm going to talk about and show you how to build 2 jigs that'll help you make these products in bulk. Let's dive in. The first project is going to be these wooden Christmas trees in a set of 3 at 10, 8, and 6 inches. Materials for this build, you're going to need 1 2x4 that's going to get you 4 sets of these trees. White paint, I'm using milk paint, but you could use acrylic paint if you want. Acrylic paint's like hobby paint. And Minwax aged barrel stain. If you're going to build the jigs, which I highly suggest because these jigs allow you to batch out this product super quick, and I'm going to go over how to make this. For the jig, you're going to need CA glue and accelerator. And then if you're going to decorate it like I decorated it, I used twine and this fake spruce tree and holly bush thing that I got at Michael's Gifts. So let's jump into this first project. So we're first gonna measure our piece, and again I need a piece at 10 inches, 8 inches, and 6 inches. I'm gonna set up my stop block. Set those aside. I'm going to mark out my 8-inch pieces. I got my 4 10-inch pieces, my 4 8-inch pieces, and then I ran out of 2x4. And I thought I did my math wrong for a second, but I was using a 2x4 left over from last week that was 6 feet long, so that's why I had to grab a second 2x4. But if you start off with a 2x4 that's 8 feet long, you'll get 4 sets. So now I'm going to measure my 6-inch piece. And I'll get that cut. So I got my 4 sets of these trees here. And now what I can do is make my jigs so that I can cut these suckers out in batch. So the first thing you're going to do is measure your 3 pieces of wood. These are 2x4s, so they have a width of 3.5 inches. So the center is 1.75 inches. I'm going to mark that on each board. Then I'm going to take my straight edge and I'm going to draw a line straight from that center line to one corner, and then again from that center line to the opposite corner. Don't take a ton of time trying to make these lines perfect and everything. The whole appeal of this kind of product is it's supposed to be rustic. It's going to be handmade. There's going to be variations in each piece. So I have those 3 pieces measured. Then what you're going to want to do is the center piece, the center line, you're going to want to bring that down the front because you need to use that as a guide. So I mark all 3 pieces. Once you have this jig made, this is the only time you need to do this. Once the jig is made, you don't ever have to make these measurements again. You just throw your pieces in the jig and make your cuts. So I have these 3 pieces marked. So this first piece is going to be, this first jig is going to be for the 10-inch piece. And what I'm going to do first is line it up so that the center and the edge here is in line with the edge of the board, and then I'm going to mark that. Then I'm going to take my strips here, and I'm going to put them on my marks. I have a cut on my finger, and that CA glue accelerator spray just went into my finger and it really hurt. All right, 1 piece down. That second piece is down. So now you're going to take your piece and we're going to go over to the bandsaw. All right, now we're going to cut our piece. All right, we have that first side cut. So now we can take the same jig, and on the opposite side, we can again line up our piece with the edge of our board. And again, mark it. Then you're again going to glue some strips down. Cool. Don't worry about this little overhang, that'll get cut off when we're at the bandsaw. Then we go back to the bandsaw, and now we're going to cut our opposite side with the same jig. So now I'm going to label this piece. So this is my 10-inch jig. This is side 1. This is side 2. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to make one for my 8-inch piece and my 6-inch piece because they're smaller, the angles are going to be slightly different, so you can't reuse the 10-inch jig for the other pieces. And that's it. Once you have those jigs made, all you need to do is take your piece you're going to cut, 10-inch piece, put it in side 1, make my cut, flip it over, side 2, flip this around, make my cut. Super easy. So I don't have to measure out any of these other pieces, just throw them in the jig and make the cuts. Finishing these up is going to be a two-part process. Step 1, we're going to put on a coat of this Minwax aged barrel penetrating stain. Let that soak in, wipe it off. It gives you a nice gray rustic looking piece. And then we're going to do a whitewash over it. For the whitewash I'm using milk paint, but you can use acrylic paint as well. This is what the final product looks like. So it's a cool kind of rustic look. And once we finish that, we'll go on from there. You can wipe it off pretty much right away. Next step to achieve our whitewash, again, take your paint, take 2 cups, put about 1 ounce of paint in the cup, and then you want to mix it with about 1 ounce of water, so equal parts paint and water, and then you're going to have to play around with it from there to see what works best for you. I think I ultimately ended up with probably like maybe a little bit more than half paint versus water, but again, you're going to have to play around with it and see which consistency you like best. And then wipe it off. All right, guys, so this project, we're going to be making a set of these. And there's 3 different sizes to these, 3 different colors. You're going to have a 10, an 8, and a 6-inch, just like the Christmas trees. And for these, we're going to have a green colored box, a red colored box, and then a white colored box. Aged barrel stain again from Minwax. I got my wreath decorations, and then I picked up some ribbons to finish off the pieces. So basically, for materials, other than finishing supplies, all you need is a 4x4. One 4x4 at $12 is going to get you 4 sets of these. So it's really high profit, really low cost. So what I need to do with this one is make pieces at 10, 8, and 6 inches. So obviously, first I'm going to measure out my 10-inch piece and line up my cut. Move my stop block. Cut my 10-inch piece. So I'm just cutting one for demonstration purposes for the video, but you're going to batch these out. Obviously, you would leave your stop block there, cut out 10 to 20 pieces at 10 inches. Then you can move on to your 8-inch cut. Mark out 8. Cut out my 10 to 20 8-inch pieces. Mark my 6. All right, so assuming you've made all your cuts at 10, 8, and 6 inches now, you got a whole bunch of pieces cut out. Now we go on to the next step. Next step for this is to give these pieces a light sanding. And I mean light. It's going to be covered with one coat of aged barrel stain and then another stain on top of it. So you're not going to see a lot of any imperfections or anything. You just need to get rid of fuzzies and stuff like that. First thing you need is a coat of your min-waxed aged barrel stain. Doesn't matter what particular order you go in for this, but I'm going to go red for the big one, green for the medium one, and white for the small one. Normally I would apply this with a foam brush, but I threw mine out by accident and I don't have any more. Definitely messier than a foam brush. This is definitely the easiest project of the three. You're only making 3 cuts, and then you're sanding and finishing. And then you're putting on your bows and ribbons and stuff, decorating it how you want, and then you're done. This one doesn't require a jig because, again, you're only making 3 cuts. They're fairly simple, and as long as you have a stop block, you can repeat those cuts easily. Then all you have to do is wait for them to dry and then add your ribbons and your holly and your spruce tree stuff. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. For this next build, we're going to be making this star. And I haven't finished that one yet. I'm going to go over the finishing process with you guys, but these are the materials that you're going to need for this. So there's 2 jigs we're going to need, and these 2 jigs are going to make your life a whole lot easier when making these stars. It's going to make it super simple to make these and batch them out in bulk. I'm going to talk about this jig. I'm going to show you how to make this jig. We're going to use this one over at the miter saw. This one's for connecting the pieces. Let's get into this. We're going to do this jig for the miter saw first. What we need to do is cut 2 4-inch strips the length of this piece of MDF. Next, I'm going to take my pieces that I just cut and I'm going to stack one behind the other like this. I'm going to take a pen. I'm just going to mark out that line. All right. Now that I have that marked out, I can take my countersink bit and put some countersunk holes in here. Now I can take this, flip it around, and I'm going to take 2 clamps, clamp up both sides of it. I'm going to toss in my screws. I brought over the jig we just put together to show you what it looks like. I have mine already set up. What you're going to do is take this jig and clamp it in place. Okay, then we're going to make several cuts and mark several spots, and I'll show you that along the way. I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to use the jig I've already used. First thing we're going to do is cut this 1x3 board into 10 equal pieces. In order to do that, I'm going to put a stop block right here, and this is going to give me pieces cut at exactly 6 inches. So take my stop block, line that up there, I clamp it in place. So now I'm going to cut 10 pieces at exactly the same length. Put those aside. You can remove this first stop block, set that aside, and we're going to label this line 6-inch pieces. That way, when I go to make my pieces in bulk, I know that's where I put the stop block for the first step. The next step is going to be adding 36-degree angles on both sides of these. So if you look at my jig here, you'll see a mark that says 36 degrees long. So that's where I know I need to put my next stop block in order to cut my pieces at 36 degrees. So we'll take our stop block, we'll put it in place, clamp it down, and then of course we need to set our saw to 36 degrees. And we'll lock that down. Now all I have to do is take my 10 pieces and put a 36-degree angle on each side. All right, 10 pieces with 36-degree angles on both sides. Now we're going to take our saw and we're going to set it to the opposite side at 54 degrees. Oh, we can take this clamp off now. Now looking back close up, you'll see we have these 3 lines. Don't worry about this one, that was a mistake. Get that out of here. You'll see 54 degree long, 54 degrees short. So we're going to take one of our cutoff pieces and we're going to clamp it right on that 54-inch long mark. You take your 5 pieces, you put it against the 36-degree side, and now you're going to cut your 54-degree angle right there. So now you got your 5 pieces. These are your long pieces. One side 36 degrees, the other side 54 degrees. Now we need to cut 5 shorter pieces. So in order to do that, we need to measure the length of the 54-degree end. By that I mean take whatever measuring device you're using and measure from here to here. And I've already done that, so I know it's already 1.25 inches exactly. So our pieces need to be from this point 1.25 inches shorter for these 5 pieces. So we're going to go set up a stop block and mark our jig again. And now we're going to put it where it says 54 degrees short. We're now going to take that piece and slide it up to that 54 degree short line. All right, now we can cut our short pieces. So again, we put one end in the 36-degree side. We make our cut that's going to be 54 degrees on the other side. So I want to mention one more thing about this jig. The jig creates these 0 clearance cut spots for you, and what that's going to do is it's going to give you support behind the piece that you're cutting. So you get a nice clean cut edge. So this jig not only lets you make repeat cuts accurately, batch out large numbers at the exact same lengths, but you're also getting nice clean cuts. So for jig number 2, it's going to help you glue up and secure your pieces without having to think about it too hard, because it is kind of confusing how to connect the pieces. So to start off, we're going to use this jig, and what this is going to do is connect our 36-degree ends together. And what you're going to want to do is connect a long piece to a short piece, making sure both 30-degree ends are connected. You don't want to connect a 36-degree end to a 54-degree end. To make this jig, all you're doing is putting one piece together like that, mark lines, and then take these little strips that I cut off, use CA glue, put them on the lines, and then you can take the jig and connect your pieces and you get a perfect fit every time. Take some of my CA glue, spray my activator. Got to hold for 10 seconds. That's now got a good strong connection. I take it out, take my brad nailer, and I'm gonna put 2 nails in this. So we're gonna rinse and repeat that step 5 more times with 5 more pieces. I do want to note, this is the 36-degree angle. You want to make those connections first. We're going to make the 54-degree angle connection second. And the reason will become more clear once we have the whole thing put together. But basically, on this completed star, these are your 36-degree ends. And you can see they're on the inside. So if you don't do them first, you're not going to be able to get your brad nailer in there to secure it. So make sure you do your 36-degree ends first. And we're going to do our larger connections. So basically you got one long and short, and then a long and then short, okay? And don't glue your fingers to the wood. Ah! Woo! Okay, we got one piece done. We'll take another piece. All right, so we got 2 pieces done. Now we can take our brad nailer and reinforce those pieces. Perfect. So now we go back to the jig. All right, we put in our first piece. And we can glue this on. All right, this last piece you can't use your jig for. That is A-okay. Cool, and then you got your completed star. So for finishing these guys up, my plan is to use, similar to the previous project, we're going to stain them first, but this time instead of the aged barrel, we're going to use early American, which is like a brownish stain, and then we're going to do our whitewash over that. I retract my previous statement. I think these look pretty cool with just the early American stain on them, so I'm going to leave them like that. But I will throw on some decorative pieces just to dress it up. And here are your final products, guys. I hope you had fun making these projects. I sure had fun making them with you. I hope you find the jigs useful. And I hope you make some good holiday money in the holiday markets this season. If you like this video, guys, check out this video next on how to use scrap lumber to make some other projects that can also make your shop some money. Oh, and Merry Christmas.